And welcome back to the Sportsnaut interview. And joining us today is senior golf writer from SI.com, Mr. Bob Harig, is joining us from Scotland, home of the 152nd Open Championship at Royal Troon this year. And Bob, we are happy to have you joining us to help us break down this tournament.
Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We appreciate you giving us a few minutes of your time today. Let's jump right into it. I know you're a busy man here. I feel like sometimes in golf, it's the golf course that takes center stage over the players in some cases. So let's get a little breakdown of Royal Troon here. What are some things that a casual fan should know about Royal Troon here, the course that we're going to be watching on TV here all week?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things probably. I think one of the most notable ones is this is one of those courses that it goes all the way out and back. You know, it's kind of like St. Andrews that way. It's pretty much 8-9 holes in one direction, and then the second 9 comes back the other way. And typically the prevailing wind is behind you as you're going out, so it makes it a little bit easier. The first 5-6 holes are the gettable ones, and then a hole or two changes a little bit of direction, and then they come home and it's a slog. You know, it's difficult. It's especially if the wind is blowing. Now, yesterday the temperatures were benign. It was really nice, very calm, and if they get it like that this week, they're going to go low. But it's not typically that way. There's some rain in the forecast. It's not that warm. It's cooled off a good bit. We're right on the water, as all these links courses usually are, and it's probably going to be a bit breezy. So I think that's the big part of it. There's only 2 par 5s. It's a par 71, but there's only 2 par 5s. So there's not even like the automatic birdie chances. There are a couple of shorter par 4s early. I mean, really, I think you'll see guys get under par quick, 2, 3, 4 under through 7 or 8, and then it's a matter of hanging on.
What kind of scores do you expect to win this tournament? I mean, you mentioned players getting under par early. What type of score do you think can get it done this week?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, last time when it was here, Henrik Stenson was 20 under, which set a major championship record at the time, and Phil was 17 under. The next best score was 6 under. So, you know, the second place guy beat the third place guy by 11 and lost by 3. So were they outliers? Possibly. I mean, it's you know, I would think that if the weather is benign and we don't get a lot of wind, you're going to probably see a double-digit score under par win. The defense for these courses is the weather. But if it blows, or, you know, we have some rain, or, you know, some difficult conditions, well, then it could be more single digits, and there are going to be more struggles. I just think that we're probably going to have at least 1 or 2 days where the weather won't be that bad, and guys are going to take it low.
Absolutely. Weather also a major storyline at most Open Championships. So based on what you've told us about the course, what you're thinking about the forecast with the weather, is there a particular player or two that you think is built to win this week?
Well, I sort of think it's the guys who are still playing the best are going to prevail. The ones who are, you know, sometimes we get caught up in the venue and can he play this style of golf? Like Bryson DeChambeau has not played great links golf in his career. He's got 1 top 10 in the Open. But he's only played in a handful, 6 times. You know, he's playing a lot better than he was last year. So why wouldn't he have a chance to do well here? If he can figure it out, if he can figure out what to hit off the tees, even though he's not had previous success, I think he can do quite well. Certainly Scheffler's got the game to be able to play well in an Open. You know, he had a bad U.S. Open, but then he won the very next week at the Travelers. He hits the ball so solid. That this bodes well for him. But, you know, there's some other guys, I think, who maybe don't hit it as far, who maybe have a more of a chance on a week like this. Length is not the key. It's because the ball's going to get out there plenty far. So maybe some guys we haven't been thinking about as much. I think there's some U.S. players that have under the radar a little bit who've had strong years and can maybe make a move. And there'll be some surprises. There almost always are.
Yeah, you mentioned Scheffler. I want to stay with him for a minute. You mentioned his chances to win this week. It's been a tremendous year for him, winning 6 times already on tour. Of course, the Masters being one of them. What would a win here at the Open do for what has already been just a tremendous year for Scheffler?
Well, it would end any player of the year debates if there are any still. I mean, he's won 6 times. He's won the Masters, another major. It's trying to think. It's been a little while since we've had a guy win 2 majors in the same year. I guess it would have been Koepka in 2018. So, he won the U.S. Open and PGA that year. So, it's pretty rare. It doesn't happen that often. Obviously, if Bryson or Schauffele did it, it would be great for them too, to have another major in the same year. But Scheffler's year has been, when you think about it, he's won a major, he's won the Players, which is the next best thing to a major, and then he's won four of the elevated events, the signature events, which are, they're smaller fields, but they're the best fields. They're the strongest fields at the top. The Memorial, the Arnold Palmer, he won it, the RBC at Hilton Head, and he also won the Travelers. And he won the Travelers the week after a U.S. Open where he didn't really have it, but the week before that he had won the Memorial. So, that's really impressive golf. I don't know. Look at. It's been a while since we've had somebody win 7 times in a year too. That'd be Tiger back. I'm thinking around the 2005 or 6 time frame. So, a lot of milestones that could be achieved here if you were able to get it done.
Yeah, Scheffler can put himself in some rarefied air there if he can get it done this week. One of the other favorites to win this week is Rory McIlroy, and of course he is always going to be a storyline heading into a major championship until he can win that next one. He's had that drought going on about 10 years now, I believe. He nearly ended that talk last major in June. At the U.S. Open, we all know how that epic meltdown went down. Do you think that Rory is fully recovered from that mentally? Because we know how important the mental side of the game is in golf. Do you think he's fully recovered from that to be a factor in this week's tournament?
It's a good question. I mean, I think it's fair to wonder. I thought it would have been better for him to play the week after the U.S. Open, get right back after it. He handled it in his way, and that's fine. He talked about getting some time alone. He went to New York City. He got sort of lost in the crowd and did some reflecting. And, that is the best way to handle it. From a golf standpoint, it might have been better to just get it out, get it over with, because he had to face the questions last week at the Scottish Open. He'll get them here again this week. Whereas if you'd have had another tournament, maybe it's just less of a talking point. But, he's bounced back before. He's had plenty of setbacks and come back to win. You have to think he's feeling good about his game. He was up there at the Scottish Open last week. He had a good week again. And so, in his case, what you want is to get off to a good start. You do not want to be chasing. He might just need somebody else one time to fall apart for him and leave him be standing, so he's not having to go through it down the stretch. Because clearly, and he was honest about it, it got in his head a little bit, he got a little tight. Missed a putt he should have made on that 16th hole at Pinehurst. That changed everything. The putt on 18 was not easy. The putt on 16 needed to go down, and who knows what happens if he gets that to go down and he's got only 2 holes to go.
We're joined by Bob Harig, senior golf writer for SI.com, and he's joining us from Scotland, and we're talking about the Open Championship, the 152nd Open Championship this year at Royal Troon. You mentioned the Scottish Open this past week. One of the other players that has me very intrigued going into this week's tournament is the Swede, Ludwig Åberg. He played really well in that tournament as well, up until Sunday, the final day, where he shot a 73 and wasn't able to finish. He was leading after 3 days. What do you think about him heading into this tournament. I think there's a little good karma on his side. The last time the tournament was held at Royal Troon in 2016, it was also won by a Swedish player,
Right.
Henrik Stenson. So what do you think about his chances here at Royal Troon?
Yeah, look, great player. I mean, he's put himself there a lot already in barely a year as a pro. He's won twice, once on each tour. It is a little bit concerning that he's been on this bit of a final round rut here lately since the Masters, where he's not broken 70 on Sunday. And he was nobody in the top 20 on Sunday shot over par except for him. So that's a little bit of a concern. Look, it just could be circumstantial. You wonder though. I mean, he's done it before, so why wouldn't he now? I mean, it happens sometimes, but I got to believe he feels good about his game. It was one bad round when he's played a lot of really good golf here lately, and it's a similar type style on the other side of the country. Why couldn't he, take it to here and keep it going?
How about Tiger Woods? Of course, I got to ask you about Tiger Woods. He's making his 23rd start at the Open Championship. Did not make the cut in the previous two majors this year. What's the word on how he's looked? I know he hasn't played much this year, but how's he looking in his practice rounds? I know he got out there a little bit earlier on Sunday to get some work in. What are you seeing and hearing from Tiger Woods?
Yeah, look, Tiger looks good in practice, but we've said this before. I mean, Tiger can still hit the shots. He can still launch his drives out there. He looks like he's good around the greens, but he's just not shown an ability to complete tournaments.
Yeah.
The last two tournaments he missed the cut. At the Masters, he made the cut and then had a poor weekend. And I think injuries contributed. I don't think his back was great at the Masters. That led to a high score. I just think it's sort of like, you hate to say you got to prove it, but you almost sort of want to see him do it once. And what happens, this is the problem with his lack of golf, is that, if Tiger could have played an event in between the U.S. Open and the Open and gotten himself some reps and played 4 rounds and made a cut, you feel better him coming here. But he's not done that. He's played only 9 rounds of golf all year. It's just a lot to ask, and so, again, I've pretty much been saying it every tournament. I mean, I think making the cut would be a great accomplishment for him, and you really can't expect a whole lot more than that. But in these last 2, he's not really come that close to that. So there's that big hurdle to overcome first.
Yeah, golf fans would be thrilled to see him stick around for the weekend, I'm sure. Last question I have for you, and then we'll let you out of here. Not related to the Open Championship, but golf, definitely related to golf. Keegan Bradley was recently named the 2025 Ryder Cup captain. Tiger turned it down, actually. But I just wanted to get some of your thoughts on the decision to go with Keegan Bradley and how you think he'll do in that position.
Yeah, it was very surprising. I mean, that caught a lot of people off guard. Nobody in the game nobody in the game who's on the outside of that decision-making process had any idea. And frankly, I don't think they did until they stumbled upon his name and started thinking about it more. But even Keegan he wasn't even thinking about it. And they called him to ask him if he wanted the job. So, look, he's got Tiger support. I think that's important. I think the players who were part of that Ryder Cup last year and got beat recognize that, they probably need to get younger with the captains, and their system of developing captains and grooming them had sort of run out for whatever reason. They diverged a little bit, and they weren't putting assistants in who would be up and coming captains. They kept putting in former captains, and they got themselves into this bind where they didn't really have many choices. And obviously a lot of people just thought it was going to be Tiger, and they figured out down the road, well, when Tiger says no, now what do you do? All right, well, they go to a guy who probably should have been part of it last year, certainly could have been if he'd have been picked. A lot of passion for the Ryder Cup, but he hasn't been in it for 10 years, but yet maybe he's got some good ideas that he'll bring to it. He's certainly going to have plenty of support around him, and he's out here all the time. He's in the Open. He's a competitive player. He's a top 20 player in the world. That's unusual for a captain. to be that highly ranked. But maybe this different approach is a good way to go.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting that he came out and said, "I want to be on the team, but I'm not going to give myself the captain's choice. I'll have to make it on
Right.
merit and points." So I thought that was interesting by him as well. But Mr. Bob Harig, everybody, you can follow him on X at Bob Harig. Please also go out there. He's got a book that he wrote recently, Tiger Woods. It's called Drive: The Lasting Legacy of Tiger Woods. I've read it. It's great. I recommend you go out there and get it yourself. And Bob, we appreciate you making the time for us here today, joining us from Scotland.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for having me.